Hello and welcome to We Random, episode 43. We're recording this on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. Hey B, how do robots have sex?
Beep boop, beep boop.
Nah, man, they nut and they bolt.
Oh.
We'll be right back after this.
Almost Qualified Productions.
Let's get crazy!
Experts don't have this much fun.
Welcome to We Random, episode 43. I'm Brian. That's Christopher. Say hello to the people, Christopher.
Hey, everybody.
So that opening joke there was a lot less PC than the one that I was going to offer up to you today, but let's offer it up anyway.
All right, what do you got?
So Christopher, what do you call the people who raise chickens?
I don't know what.
Chicken tenders.
Oh, I need to hit you with that guy too.
That was terrible.
That's
but I
pretty
heard
good.
it today and I thought of you because I know you like the terrible jokes.
I've been sitting on the nuts and bolts for like 2 or 3 weeks now. I've been sitting on that one, waiting for it.
I mean, that's fair. Well, now that you've busted your nut, we are here, and it's time for another episode of We Random. So, in case you are new to the show, my name is Brian. That's Christopher. We yell about things, or at least consider yelling about things instead of, talking about them. But sometimes we talk about them. And we have this wonderful Wheel of Doom over here where you can see all of the different topics that we may talk about. However, because we like to talk a lot, we don't often get to all of the topics on that wheel. So it is up to random chance which of these topics we will cover today.
Absolutely. And although we've done a very poor job of it lately, the stuff that we don't get to, sometimes we talk about in a special podcast that we do weekly, where we do what's called Extra Time. Is that right? Is it Extra Time? I always get the names messed up. Extra Time. We record that one on the weekends, and sometimes we talk about the extra stuff that we didn't get a chance to talk about. Sometimes we come up with something brand new. Sometimes we do something stupid and weird, like show a bunch of GIFs on the screen, or GIFs, if you pronounce it wrong. Whatever the case may be. So lots of different things, and that is something you unlock through Patreon. So if I got to type this in because I don't have Old Man Wiggum here. So if you are interested in supporting the stream monetarily, you can do that through Patreon, and there are different levels give you different perks. So that's something that you can look into. But how about I spin this wheel, B? You good with that?
I think I am good with that. Let's get started on our wonderful topics for the day.
Wheels are spinning. And we're going to start off with rainbow washing. What is rainbow washing?
What is rainbow washing, Sconzi? I guess we are about to find out, aren't we? So, rainbow washing. With it being Pride Month, many companies are outwardly aligning themselves with the LGBTQ plus community in their advertising. According to Gabrielle Antelovich, the board president of the LGBTQ plus center in San Jose, a disturbing trend of rainbow washing has developed. Rainbow washing is the use of the rainbow symbol or its colors by companies and brands to indicate solidarity with Pride, whether or not their own policies and actions actually benefit the LGBTQ plus community. So a quote is that, like most dominant cultures, these brands incorporate movements into their own. Capitalism will sell merchandise. So we've seen this a lot because you have companies out here that are selling t-shirts, they're wrapping their sandwiches in, pride flag colored paper. There are shoes and socks and hats and everything that has, pride insignia. But the problem with this is that as a consumer, you don't often know which company is actually aligning with the values of diversity and those who are just trying to take your money.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I've seen a lot on social media because I follow a lot of people that are, LGBTQ, either themselves or friendly or whatever the case may be, advocates. And this is something that came up in the last week on the podcast with Ellie as well, is the just the empty promises and the empty voices that companies are spending or sharing, right? You got companies who we're gonna put all the rainbow merchandise out there on the store because we know that it's gonna sell and it's gonna make us money. It has nothing to do with them supporting stuff. It has to do with them just wanting to get the money off of that, right? But here's the thing: is I'm going to take this in a different direction. So this isn't actually the article that we had. This is a different article that I read. And if you were here for the podcast last week, I did mention this article, but I didn't call out specifics because I couldn't remember the specifics of it. But this specific article here, which I don't think is the one that I actually read, but it's similar. 25 corporations who are really proud, for lack of a better term, of donating over $10 million. No, these are people, 25 corporations marketing pride. So I'm putting the t-shirts out there. I am putting it on social media with the rainbow icon, and I'm talking about how great our employees are that are gay, whatever the case may be. Donated over $10 million to anti-LGBTQ plus politicians. So basically what this is, and this is a list of very, very, very large companies. CVS is the first one that popped up. And I'm sure there's a bunch of Walmart is in here, Wells Fargo. There's a ton of these, General Motors. These are companies who, out one side of their mouth, they're selling the pride merchandise, they're putting in the rainbow logo, they're saying the good things, but they're giving donations to politicians who are doing some voting for really, really horrible things. The one they mentioned here, as I was just kind of browsing through it, CVS donated to people who were blah, 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 blah. I don't remember where it was. Here it is. They backed 2 state senators who sponsored a bill in Texas that would change the state's child abuse laws to make it a crime for parents to allow children to receive gender-affirming medical care. That's just one of hundreds of examples on here. Hundreds might be an exaggeration, but tons of examples of corporations who are on the sly donating money to politicians. Now to be fair, those 2 politicians who I don't know from Adam, they maybe they're doing some things that are kind of okay. They're probably not, because corporations are really supporting politicians that put money in their pocket, let's be honest. But how can you stand? It's just like the whole Chick-fil-A thing, right? I know I'm going on a rant here, but it's like the Chick-fil-A thing. Maybe they do some things that are kind of okay, but they've also got a history of donating tons of money to anti-LGBTQ organizations or politicians or whatever the case may be. So I think this is just an interesting thing, and I'm glad that there's a lot of articles that are shining a spotlight on it. Do I think that any of this is ever going to change? No. Why? Because our politicians are owned by big business. That's just the way it is. Big businesses can continue to do what they need to do to make money, and they don't really have a corporate soul. There's a little bit of people that have a little bit of a soul, but corporations don't. And this is just a disgusting situation. I'm sorry, I really went on a rant. What do you think, P?
No, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it there. And the thing with something like this is that, especially when you're talking about big corporations, you often have kind of the corporate headquarters. And then for some of these places, these are quote unquote like franchisee restaurants, right? So if you have a franchisee of something, it's like maybe they're in an area where their politicians are completely against the LGBTQ community, but they got to play ball with those politicians to make sure that they get the licenses that they need and they get XYZ. So it's just a very muddy system. And so there's another article that we have on here that may or may not come up that kind of really seems to speak to this. And I don't know if we just want to kind of wrap some of that conversation into this because it fits pretty well, or if we want to save that and see if it comes up or not.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but if you want to just jump into it, go for it.
So this is the one with the UEFA, so the European football.
Oh, God.
And so basically what happened with the European football is the country of Hungary, their politicians have passed a law that it basically is illegal to teach anything about homosexuality. And they are playing the country of Germany in this UEFA 2020 Cup. In Germany, the mayor in Munich was like, look, I want to light up our stadium in rainbow colors to be within solidarity with the LGBT community of Hungary. and they took this to the UEFA folks and said, "Can we do this?" And UEFA said, "No, you can't do it because it's a political statement specifically directed at this country, and we as an organization are not political." Yet this organization has like I have to see if I can get the official language, but it was basically like their founding rules or something, and like in their um equal game founding document, they say that racism, homophobia, sexism, and all forms of discrimination are a stain on our societies. Yet they're like, no, you really can't like be trying to tell Hungary what they should or shouldn't do, or kind of trying to jab them for this. So like they're not standing up at all, as to where a lot of these other soccer leagues and soccer stadiums in Germany are like, you know what? If they won't let you do it, we're going to light up our stadium because they don't control us. Like, this is a perfect example of how like big conglomerates kind of always try to toe that line so that they can always get the business from the most people. They don't actually want to take that stand that's going to put them in a position where they will get flack from someone, basically.
Yeah, and it's biting them in the ass, right? Because, and I was reading through this article, so you may have touched on this, but they're telling Munich you can't put the rainbow flag in your stadium. So I think the first one was, I just saw who the first stadium was, but there's another stadium in Germany that says, Cologne, says, well, we're going to light up our stadium then. Yeah, the game's not being played here. We're going to light it up in colors too. And then Berlin said that, and Wolfsburg, and Augsburg, and Frankfurt. All these different German stadiums are like, yeah, the game's not here. We're going to light up our stadium rainbow in solidarity to you. France came out and said they might do the same. So here is an issue where Germany wanted to, stand up and make a point and say, hey, we really want to celebrate, it's Pride Month and support for LGBTQ, and the UEFA or whatever is saying, no, you can't do that. And now all of a sudden it's turned into a huge, much bigger thing. So it's just one of those things where making stupid decisions just comes back and bites you in the ass.
Well, and this kind of all started because Germany's goalkeeper has their kind of captain's armband. And typically the captain's armband is like a one solo color, but he's been wearing basically a pride armband. It's like a rainbow armband. And UEFA like looked into this and they're like, should we fine him for this? Should we suspend him for this? Is this something that he can do? Because there's a rule like no political statements or whatever. But they were like, well, like it's fine. Like he's just trying to show solidarity with his team, and like we'll let that go. But then they had this decision where they're like, no, you can't. So it's like again they draw the line. They're like, well, you as one single person can have your expression, but you as a team can't express this because then it's pointed at other people, and it like we as a society are to the point where we try to turn everything into these little like microaggressions against other people, right? Basically, like it's basically at a level where it's like, well, this makes me feel uncomfortable, so if I feel uncomfortable, like and I don't know how I want to say this because again it's a very delicate thing, but we're at this point where the people who are in majority power are feeling uncomfortable, and we are basically caving to that and making those people who are in the minority continue to feel uncomfortable because we don't want to deal with the uncomfortableness that would occur by trying to allow those people to come up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where, if you are actively against whatever the group is that's fighting for recognition, right now we're talking LGBTQ, but, it could be black groups, it could be women, it could be the indigenous people, whatever the case may be. Obviously, if you're actively against that group because, you're an asshole, then you're going to be against making that stand, right? And then on the complete opposite side, you got the people who are allies or who are a part of that group who are actively fighting against that. And then in the middle, you got the people who don't really have a stake in the game, right? They're not really motivated by either side. And the problem is generally these are the people who are very comfortable in life, right? These are people who, I don't need to fight for that. And if I stick my neck out, now all of a sudden my comfortable spot in life right now could be jeopardized. So you've got a big chunk of the populace that is indifferent or actively fighting against these types of things. And I just want to point out that we just had a story about a company in Germany who, as far as we can tell, is completely genuine and wanting to show support for this group, right after we talked about these giant American corporations who are supporting legislation to strip away the rights and the abilities of people to live their lives. Just want to point that out. Emily, It's good to see you too. Glad you made it.
I mean, I feel like we're almost on a roll. Where should we just keep going with some of the LGBT topics? Should we move on?
No, we got to spin. We got to spin. This is
Okay.
we random, B. We got to make this shit random. Now we're probably going to hit up the UEFA one right now.
I'd laugh.
No, this is where I thought you might be going. This is the one you've been waiting for. This is Brian's favorite.
Not.
Brian's excited. I can feel it. Come on, Brian, let us have it.
No, this is not the one that I'm. There's a different one on this wheel that's going to get me hot and bothered, but not this one. But there is Juneteenth depression from the Wisconsin GOP.
What?
So there was a recently passed bill to recognize Juneteenth Day as a federal holiday that brought together Democrats and Republicans as few recent efforts have. The bill passed by unanimous consent in the Senate by a margin of 415 to 14 in the House. Now,
14.
two of the key. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying 14.
So, two of the key opponents of the measure were two Wisconsin legislators who have staked out positions on the far right of their party. In the House, U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany, one of the 14 members to vote against recognition, said that the bill was. Let's see, where was this? He says that the effort to make Juneteenth a federal holiday is fueled separatism by creating a race-based Independence Day. Meanwhile, friend of the show, Ron Johnson, had his grievances, and only once he dropped his opposition was the bill able to move through in the Senate. Johnson, though, still needed to reiterate his worries about the cost of the proposal in a statement, saying that it seems strange that having taxpayers provide federal employees paid time off is now required to celebrate the end of slavery. So, Skanzi, do you want to take the lead on this one, or do you want me to take the lead on this one?
No, this is all you, buddy. Go get him.
So number one, let's start here.
Before you start, let me just say, Ron Johnson.
Good luck.
Hit him, B.
Oh, I thought that you were going to go with the other one.
No, he's always honorary.
Okay.
I don't know who that's going to be this week. I got to look at the topics. Anyway, go for it.
So let's start here, chat. First, we wouldn't be in this position if we as a country didn't have slavery to begin with, right? So let's start there. Secondly, when we're talking about Juneteenth Day, it is a very important day in the history of Black and Brown people in the United States. It's a holiday commemorating the end of slavery following the Civil War and is observed on June 19th because on that day in 1865, enslaved people in Galveston, Texas learned of the end of the war and of their enslavement. So, the biggest thing about this is that there are a lot of people out there, and you can look on Twitter, you can look online and see, oh, well, they want to abolish Independence Day and just have a Juneteenth Day. No, we're not taking away your Independence Day, but your Independence Day is not also the Independence Day for those individuals who were enslaved. Because again, we in this country, we're doing this whole thing, and there was a skit that Trevor Noah did that I sent to Skanzi, which is not appropriate for this podcast, but it really is what it is. And it's kind of that same thing that I was saying before, is that people are feeling uncomfortable because there's a subset of individuals in this country who want to celebrate the end of slavery, because a lot of people feel different ways about slavery, whether they feel ashamed or they want to ignore that it existed or whatever it is, but it's making them feel uncomfortable. So instead of allowing these people to celebrate what they want to celebrate, they're saying, no, you can't celebrate this. But do you know what we have? We have multiple days that celebrate a person that Skanzi and lots of other people on this earth don't believe existed. So if we are going to have a day to celebrate a person who a lot of people don't think exists, we can have a day to celebrate a thing that actually happened, which was the abolishment and end of slavery in the United States. Also, based on what we know is that if this becomes a federal holiday and people are getting paid time off for this holiday, who, as the New Day would say, is benefiting from this? It's actually a lot of the people who are kicking and screaming and saying that they don't want this, because as we know, there is a huge discrepancy in employment rates between, who's in these higher paying jobs where they're going to get these days off and who's not working in these higher paid jobs where they're not going to get that paid time off. I mean, so it's just like, it really frustrates me how we have gotten to this point in this country where we have the people who have been in power for decades and centuries, and they're grasping at every single straw that they can to maintain that power. And they're basically saying, you're offending me and you're making me feel some kind of way. So we're going to continue to do everything that we can to push you back down. You want to celebrate this, that means that you're trying to take away something from me. But it's not always about you. It's about what's in the best interest for the most amount of people. It doesn't hurt you out there that these black and brown people have the opportunity to celebrate Juneteenth. If you don't want to celebrate it, then don't celebrate it. Take your 8 hours, go drink your White Claw, and do whatever you're going to do. But let them do them.
Well, that's not how people see this, B. So I agree with you, obviously, but that's not how our friends see this.
So how do they see it, Sconzi? Tell me. Illuminate the way for me.
So here's how our friends see this, and these are many of our friends who help run this glorious state, including the aforementioned Ron Johnson, who, as I said, is always an honorary the wee random dick of the week. So here's how they see it. So first, we got to give these people the ability to eat at the same fucking restaurant that I'm at. Like, why the fuck do I have to give that up? And now I got to let them date my fucking daughter? Like, this is disgusting. Oh, and we're going to give them Martin Luther fucking King Day, and they get that off work. And now they're going to take this Juneteenth day. Like, why do we keep giving stuff to all these black people? That's how they hear this. That's what they're seeing. Right? They're not seeing the reason for this, and they're not understanding that this is something that should and absolutely has to be celebrated. All they're seeing is that somebody not them is getting something. Doesn't matter what it is. If the government came out tomorrow and said, we are going to pay reparations to every single black person in this country, every single black person in this country gets 25 cents. That is your reparations. Black people are going to be pissed off. But you know who else is going to be pissed off? All those fucking white people who are going to say, why the fuck are they getting 25 cents? Why don't I get 25? It's a fucking quarter, dude. Calm the fuck down. But all they see is somebody's getting something, and they feel that that puts them underneath. And the problem is with weak-willed, fucking weak-brained people, they don't have the ability, because of their makeup, they don't have the ability, they don't have the drive to push themselves to be better. They don't have the ability, they don't have the drive to be better, to do better, to make themselves better. They don't have that. The only thing that they have going for them is that they're white people. That's it. That's all they've got. So as soon as you chip away with that by any means whatsoever, they fucking lose it, because you're taking away that one advantage they have. Now, don't get me wrong. It shouldn't be a fucking advantage that you're white, but we all know that it is, right? I had this conversation with Ellie. I don't know if it was on the podcast or outside of the podcast. I think it was on the podcast, where I said, I get snippy with the fucking cops when they pull me over. It's like, you ain't got no fucking reason to pull me over, dude. Don't fucking waste my time. Now, if I was a black guy, am I doing that? You goddamn bet I'm not, because I'd be dead, right? There is a huge benefit to being a white guy. Let's be honest. And that's what these people don't like, B. That's what they see. That's what they hear. Is somebody else might be getting an edge over me. Now, if you are somebody who can stand up on your own two goddamn feet, because you're not a fucking idiot, because you're not a fucking person who can't see more than 2 feet in front of you, if you were a person who could pull yourself up by them bootstraps, you're not going to get upset. I don't care if you give black people something that have been oppressed. I don't care. I'll take care of myself. Like, that's what I'm going to do. These people should have reparations. They should have, we talked about the thing, was it in Evanston, maybe? in Illinois, where they're helping black people who with home repairs or buying homes or whatever the case may be. Like, this all makes sense, but that's not what these small-minded people see.
Right.
And I'm talking about even small-minded people that have been elected into fucking office. That's all that they see, is somebody else is getting something that pushes me just that little bit, makes them feel like they're being pushed down. They're not being. We're just lifting people up. But you see this everywhere too. You see people who are not able to lift themselves up. You know how they try to get ahead in life? They cut other people down. And that's what this is.
This is the whole thing. Like, so I'm thinking about our friend of the show, Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Like, she came out recently and apologized for her comments about the Holocaust, because she finally went to the Holocaust Museum, and she's like, oh, well, COVID's not nearly what happened to these people at the Holocaust, right? But then we get into critical race theory and like how basically we are changing our education system to once again cater to the needs of people who are in the majority. And the question that I want to ask you, Sconzi, and I'm going to get way off track here, but again, we random. So if we're saying that Black, brown, LGBTQ, any of these minority groups are old enough to experience the impacts of racism, to experience the impacts of the systematic things that are against them, why is it that their white counterparts are not old enough to learn about it?
You really want me to answer that? It's because their parents don't want the truth out there, because their parents don't want their kids to understand that they've got that privilege. They want to continue to perpetrate their fucking idiot ideology. That's what it all comes down to. They want to make sure that
that's the question that people should be asking themselves, right? Because if you're saying that a LGBTQ kid needs to go to school and be bullied because they want to be out as the gay person that they are, if there's a Black person who's going to be experiencing bullying and racism at their school, but the white kids at that school are not old enough to hear about Tulsa, they're too fragile to know and to learn about homosexuality.
No, B, that's a red herring. It's a red herring that they're throwing out there because they can't go to the school board and say, hello, Mr. School Board, my name is Bob Jones and I'm a fucking racist and I hate black people and I hate gay people and I think they all should be hung from a fucking tree. He can't do that. So instead, Bob Jones comes up with some stupid fucking thing and says, my kid's too young, he can't learn about that. No, you're a fucking racist, just admit it. That's what it is. That's what it all comes down to.
But saying what you just said gets us nowhere, right? And that's why I'm approaching it from this perspective of, okay, if your argument is that your children are too young to understand this, then why is it that the children who are of their same age, in their same class, can continue to experience these things, right?
But then they just change the argument. Then they change the argument. Okay, fine. So maybe that age they're already experiencing this, but now you're going to give my son white guilt. He's going to feel guilty for feeling white. Now you're going to emotionally scar him for the rest of his life. And then if you come up with a reason why
everybody's emotionally scarred, right?
Okay, but that's not an answer, right? Because they're going to say no. You're just trying to abuse my child.
We're not abusing anyone. What we're doing is we're educating.
No, you're abusing my child because my child is going to come away from this feeling like he's been oppressed. He's oppressing people. He needs to be embarrassed. He needs to be ashamed that he is a white person. He is going to have to go to therapy. You are not allowed to mentally damage my son. And it doesn't matter what your response is, because even if somebody crafted the perfect response, you know what Bob Jones is going to do? He's going to change the fucking argument again. Because that's what they do. Because they know that their argument doesn't hold water. So they will throw it out there. I mean, this is fucking Trump 101, right? This is this thing that he played to a hilt because these fucking people buy it. You throw out something and you just wait and see how people react. And if they buy it, then great, I fucking win. And if they don't buy it, I'll just change the story.
So this was your whole question, right? So you always ask, well, how do we change this, or what do we do about it? That's what I'm asking here. Like, I'm proposing these different things. So, what can we do? Because this is the crux of where we're stuck in our society.
What do we do? You want to know what my answer is?
Yeah, what's your answer?
I'll tell you offline, because if I say it publicly, that's not good. But the problem is there is no short-term answer. There just isn't, because people who are living in hate, living with hate, living with prejudice, they are always going to be that way. Now, maybe you can turn some of them, right? Like, I like to think I'm a realist, and I am well aware that I do lean to the pessimist side. But if you take somebody who sees a black person walking down the street, or sees, you know, a guy wearing fucking purple fingernails, you know, they're automatically going to say, I hate that person because of this preconceived notion that I have of who they are, right? There are a very, very small number of them that you may be able to get through, but the vast majority of them you're not going to, for a lot of different reasons. Part of it is the winning mentality that I've talked about quite a bit, right? People always want to be right. I always have to be winning. But on top of that is prejudice is, in a lot of ways, not all ways, but in a lot of ways, it's like a stupidity virus, right? Like, you can't be open-minded, you can't be well-educated, you can't be somebody who's worldly and hold those beliefs. Now, you can to some degree, right? But the vast majority, I would wager, I obviously don't have statistics on this, but I would wager the vast majority of people who hold these beliefs fall into that kind of a category, right? They're not well educated, or they're just flat stupid, or whatever the case may be. And the problem is how do you educate people that fall onto that side of things? It's very, very, very difficult, because they're just going to be completely closed-minded and not open to any other beliefs other than what they have. So I don't know that we can do anything with them. Now, that doesn't mean we completely give up and we don't try, but I think that there's going to be very, very, very little movement there. On top of that, we've got a government that is run by old white guys, and a lot of them feel similar ways. Now, they may not be really far on the spectrum, Donald Trump, but they're on that spectrum in a lot of ways. So they're passing laws or not passing laws that don't help this. So really, the way that we have to try to solve this is with children, honestly. And I don't know that we're going to be able to solve that, because Bob Jones isn't going to let little Timmy hear about critical race theory, because he wants to make sure.
What scares me is that we're cutting out the education from our children, and that is going to continue to perpetuate these things, because you know, you watch small children, and small children, especially in that kind of formative age, like, they don't care about who they're playing with. They're like, ooh, it's another child, I want to go hang out with them. But then as they get older, they start to learn these inherited things from their parents, from their support system, from the educational sector that they are bred in. So basically what's going to happen is, again, we are breeding these behaviors in our kids.
It's funny because we had the exact opposite. Like, we took different stances on this like 2 months ago. I don't know which show it was, chat. You can go back and rewatch them. But that's exactly what I had said at the time, right? Is that, yeah, we can try to educate, but in the end, who is little Timmy going to listen to?
Right.
You know, George, who's leading his, you know, summer school class, or his dad? And his dad is always going to have that advantage. Now, it's not going to be 100%. Right? Like, there's some great videos out there that I've watched, like on TikTok or whatever, where the kid is like, there was one around Donald Trump, right? Where she's very passionate about she's going to vote for Joe Biden because Donald Trump's a horrible person or whatever. And her parents are like just screaming at her, kicking her out of the house, etc. Right? Like, there are people who the children are able to get educated and move beyond that. It's not going to be 100%, but that's the only option that we've got. And we have to slowly erode that. But I really think we got to start on top, man. We got to start on top, and we got to start kicking these fucking assholes out of office. That's a big part of it, right? Because stuff like this, we shouldn't have 14 people voting against this. We shouldn't have, you know, sweeping voting regulation laws being passed in this country, which are predominantly going to impact black voters. Like, this is fucking disgusting, the fact that we live in a country where this shit happens, where you can be outright racist and prejudiced against people, and not only is it okay, not only are you rewarded, not only do you get to keep your job, but you're getting more money from it, man. People are just lining your pockets. Like, this is disgusting.
Right. And if you talk about it, you're just being political. You need to stop playing into the political system and blah, blah, blah,
I'm
blah,
fucking political then, because I'm going to keep screaming it from the rooftops, because somebody has to. And you know what? This is bullshit. And yeah, maybe I get a pass because I'm an old fucking white guy, but that doesn't mean I'm okay with people that I love and care about that don't have that same advantage and that people are being impacted. I'm not okay with that.
All right. Well, let's spin this wheel and see what we get now.
So, Chad, if this is your first time to the podcast, welcome to it. You're probably going to hear a lot more of that stuff. But we're going to spin. We went off on that one, B. Holy shit. That was a podcast in and of itself.
Right? We could have gone on for another however long. I
We
just
probably
figured
could
it's-
have, but let's get mad
Oh,
about
good.
something else. You know, this is a national pastime, B. Everybody loves baseball. You know, you even say as American is baseball and apple pie, right?
Okay.
So let's talk about how great our country and our national pastime is.
So, Rob Manfred and his continued efforts to ruin the game of baseball has examined the past 3 years of use by pitchers of stuff that is called sticky stuff, which at first is a mixture of sunscreen and rosin, but now has become various forms of glue. And MLB is saying that this has become so pervasive that one recently retired hurler estimates that 80 to 90% of pitchers are using it in some capacity. Why, might you ask? Would a pitcher use sticky stuff? Well, it is supposed to increase the spin rate on pitches, which in turn increases movement and makes pitches more difficult to hit. This, MLB states, has contributed to an offensive crisis that has seen the league wide batting average plummet to a historically inept 236. MLB, in response, has decided mid-season that they want to crack down on the cheating, instituting a policy that any pitcher who possesses or applies foreign substances in violation of the rules will be ejected from a game and automatically suspended 10 games. To enforce this, starting pitchers will have more than one mandatory check per game, and relievers must be checked at the end of the inning when they entered the game. Now, this has just been initiated this week, so there's been, a day or 2 days now of these checks, and so far everybody has come back clean. But this has been a sticking point. See what it did there? For a while, as pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays, Tyler Glasnow sounded off on MLB's crackdown after he was diagnosed with a partially torn ulnar collateral ligament. Glasnow said that in advance of the initiative, he did away with using sunscreen, which was the only foreign subject or substance he said that he has used. And he, after doing this 2 starts ago, felt some discomfort in his arm, and then the next start, he felt a popping in his arm. He said that basically he had to change the grip on his ball and he was holding the ball further back in his hand, and that led to some subpar mechanics that ended up in him blowing out his elbow. And there have been many hitters who have come out and said, hey, I don't care if you use sunscreen or whatever, just don't hit me in the head. So there's a lot of players who are not happy about this. But what are your thoughts, Gonzi?
You know, if I was a player and I was cheating, I probably wouldn't be happy that I got to stop cheating. I'm just saying, I think that's pretty obvious. If I was a batter who was getting away with something, I probably wouldn't want the pitchers to get in trouble for cheating because they probably know that I'm cheating too. And God knows how long it's going to take before they let people know that I'm Houston Astros cheating, right? So, yeah, and this whole Tyler Glasnow thing, fuck you, dude. You come out and you say, hey, I was cheating, and then I stopped cheating and I got hurt, so it's your fault that I got hurt. Fuck you, don't cheat. You shouldn't have been cheating to begin with. If you hadn't have been cheating, you wouldn't have had to change your mechanics because it would have been the same mechanics you had, and you wouldn't have got hurt. Or maybe you would have got hurt and it had nothing to do with it. Either way, it's just don't fucking cheat. How hard is that? But here's the thing, and yes, Emily, I agree, sticky stuff. Hey, I'm sorry, Bob can't come out to pitch right now. He needs another, just give him 2 minutes. Hold on. Give him a magazine or something, dude. Come on, we got to get out here. But here, cheating's never okay. But here's the problem. I don't know that MLB is going to really, really crack down on this. I really don't. Because we had the Houston Astros thing a couple of years ago. And for those who may not be big baseball fans, and the reason why I was banging on my desk is that it was found that the Houston Astros were cheating the season that they won the World Series, right? Where they were using a trash can or something in the dugout, and they're making banging sounds to relay what pitch is being thrown. It was some pretty fucking horrible shit. And it was a big, huge news story that went away pretty quickly because of the pandemic season, so it just kind of dissipated. But there's no way baseball wants anything to do with a huge scandal, a cheating scandal. They want nothing to do with that. Manfred sure as shit doesn't, because this whole thing is on his watch. So are they going to say something and try to make a big deal out of it to to the people who really follow this and hope that it gets under control, or at least quiets down enough that it's not in the news, absolutely they'll do that. Are they going to come out there and make a huge deal about this and start kicking out all the best pitchers in baseball? No. Like fucking Jacob deGrom, right? If they find sticky stuff on him, what do you think they're going to do? Hey, go wash that shit off, man. You can't have that on your hand, right? Like, what are they? Dudes having like the best season ever. They're not going to kick him out and say you're cheating. They're never going to do that.
Well, it's like the guy, this kind of started a couple of weeks ago where the guy had like sunscreen on his head and they're like, oh, we're just going to take your hat. And you
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, but here's the thing. Like, what bothers me about this is, number one, they're just like, oh, we're just going to try this midseason. Number two, it's like, you've known that this is a problem, but no one has brought it up until now. Like the umpire touches the ball like every third pitch, right?
He had to have
Does
known.
the umpire not know? Does he go, oh, my hand is very sticky now. Why is that?
Right.
Are you a 3-year-old? Like, 3-year-olds are the only ones that I know that have perpetually sticky hands, right?
Well, the guy that lives down the apartment here. But
so all of a sudden, if you are just like pulling these, you're like, oh, why is my hand sticky? Like one of these people, like Yadier Molina had a ball stick to his chest protector once. Y'all didn't think that was a problem? Like, I mean, the thing about this is another one of those situations where MLB is trying to talk tough, but what are they going to do? Here's my whole thought. Okay, so you're going to check the relief pitchers when they leave the game.
Right.
So this guy comes in with the bases loaded, strikes out a guy, and then you check him and you go, oh, you had sticky stuff. Well, I guess the strikeout still counts. What the fuck did that do? Like, for real, like, you want to change the game, but you're not actually going to do the stuff that needs to be done to change the game because you're just doing this for lip service.
Yep, that's
like,
all it is.
It's one of these things where you changed the ball because you wanted to depress offense. Now offense is horrendously depressed, and you're like, well, it's because pitchers are cheating. No, it's like there's a lot of factors here. There are pitchers who are throwing 100 miles an hour, and there was a hitter who I think it was Charlie Blackmon of the Rockies who was like, I basically have to swing where my eyes tell me that I should not swing because this ball is doing things that it's not supposed to do physics-wise. And, that makes sense, but it's just one of these things where, like, this is all lip service is just the way that I think about it. And they're going to get some like journeyman reliever who has been applying his Vaseline and whatever to the ball, and they're going to be like, you got to sit out your 10 days, pal. But all of a sudden, if Shane Bieber's got sticky stuff on his belt, all of a sudden he's going to come out with somebody else's belt on the next inning. He's not going to get thrown out of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I think it's really, if they truly wanted to do something about this, then the answer is, we're going to check you consistently. We're going to check you once an inning, when you come on to the inning and when you leave for the inning or something. We're going to hire a special assistant that's going to be at each dugout, and it doesn't even have to be a referee. It could just be some fucking dude from the streets or something, and he just sits there and he's going to check, whatever he needs to check to make sure you're good. And if you're found that there's anything in there that's questionable by any means, you're immediately ejected from the game, and wherever that sticky stuff is needs to be examined. If it's on your body, then maybe a doctor takes a sample or something. If it's in your hat, we're taking your hat, whatever the case may be. That's what you do, right? You are immediately ejected if you're using that. Period. It's cheating. Like, just make a decision and do something, man. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it's just one of those things too, where it's like, oh, well, now you're going to have these mound conferences, and all of a sudden you're going to get the first baseman just dips into his belt, and here you go. It's
really weird how every time that we've got 2 strikes and 2 outs in the inning, the first baseman comes over and suddenly leaves with the pitcher's towel. Like, what's going on there? It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden you're thrown over to first base, and that ball.
The first baseman's scruffing it up for you or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is there cheating in baseball? Probably. I mean, this is
100% yes.
It's the old Eddie Guerrero line. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? But at the same time, it's like, I feel like MLB is just doing this just because they can, not because they actually have any intent of cracking down on this.
But you know what's really epitomizes everything. I'm going to use this to wrap us up, and then we're going to move on to random rankings. Here's the thing. Using steroids, that's okay. Using sticky stuff, that's okay. But God forbid a trans man wanted to try to play Major League Baseball. Then we would lose our fucking minds. Let's move on to random rankings. I've got a sound clip here, but I don't know where it's at. There it is.
Random rankings.
I mean,
to be fair, if they wanted to play Major League Baseball, it would be fine. But if they wanted to play like,
he's still talking.
If they wanted to play like NCAA softball, like, oh man, can't do that. So.
What's random rankings, B? What are we doing?
So this week for our random rankings, we're going back to the tier maker. Not this kind of tier maker, but making actual tiers of the best fruits. Now, what I found is that many of the fruits on this list I have not tried or I have no idea what they are. So as we pull this up, we will discuss those. And it's possible that maybe what we should do is just nominate some of the fruits that we really like or that we really hate, and eventually we'll just decide that we're done with this tier maker. What are your thoughts about that, Sconzi?
I think we can kind of work our way through them, but yeah, I think we're going to run into a situation where, not all of them are on the thing or something. But yeah.
Should we just start by taking out the ones that we don't want to rule on? Would that be helpful?
I think we just start from the beginning and just work our way through and get where we get to.
Cool.
So for those who aren't familiar, tier list, basically the idea is you're ranking them from the top, whatever the best is, to whatever the worst is. So you're just kind of, and there's tiered lists, right? So you may have 4 things that are on that S list. They're all kind of like the top. They group together as kind of the best group of stuff. So,
okay.
Do we want to actually, instead of working through all of them, how about we just nominate? We each nominate one, and then we figure out where we want it to be, and then we'll just work through a number of them, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting at. So let's do it.
All right. What do you want to nominate first?
I am nominating the fruit that needs to go on the S line, and that is watermelon.
All right. Watermelon. On the C line for B.
No, that's got to go on the S line.
I don't think that's an S, B.
Okay, so tell me why.
I mean, watermelon's decent, but a lot of times you get watermelons that aren't very good. Like, they don't have a lot of flavor. Also, they fucking are all sticky and shit. So, like, I don't want to eat fruit that's all sticky. It's pretty good. I can give you an A. I don't know that I would go S for myself.
Yeah, it's easily an S for me because that's my go-to summer fruit. So if we have to compromise to A, then I will live with that until I see what we put in S.
I think you're much more passionate about it being an S than I am about it being an A. I don't even know that I would put it at an A, to be honest. I'd probably put it maybe at a B, but right. I'm going to give you the S. I'm going to give you the S.
All right, so what are we nominating?
Well, I am going to put raspberries on the S.
Okay, tell me more about raspberries.
I just love fucking raspberries, man. They're amazing. The only thing I don't like about them is you get those little pity kind of things sometimes in your teeth. But they don't fucking drip all over you like watermelon. You never get like a raspberry that has no flavor like you can get with a watermelon. And you can find them just like growing kind of wild. So you just go out there and steal them, which is great. You can't really steal watermelon. So and I grew up eating raspberries all the time. My best friend when I was growing up had a raspberry vine or bush or whatever. So like all summer long, that's where it was. So kind of like watermelon's your summer thing, raspberries mine, because we'd go out there and just pick them and eat them. And I'm sure his mom always wondered where the fuck they all went.
Nice. Yeah, I don't disagree with raspberry. Like I feel like raspberries sometimes they don't have as much flavor to me, but I won't argue with you on that one. Raspberries are definitely a staple in our household. So.
All right. So we started off with 2 S's. Where are you going next, B?
I'm coming with with a third S, and it's red grapes.
Oh, what? Red grapes, are they even on here?
They are.
Red grapes.
Yeah, red grapes are a favorite for me. They're not terrible for you. You can pop them. They're basically very, got a lot of good flavor.
I cannot put those on the same line as watermelon and raspberry. I just can't do it.
No. Okay. Tell me more.
I just, grapes just aren't really a thing for me. Like kind of what I'm looking at is if I go to the store, well, I don't go to the store. If I'm using my app and I'm going to order some dinner or some fucking groceries, what am I going to order? I'm not ordering grapes. I mean, every now and then I might get grapes, but like it's just not like raspberries. I order pretty much every time I order groceries. Watermelon I never order, but you love that one. The red grapes though, grapes just aren't really my thing. I think I like white grapes better than the red grapes anyway. I don't know why they say white. They're fucking green, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Green grapes are a little bit more sour as to where the reds are a little sweeter.
I'll give you an A.
Okay.
I'll compromise on an A. But yeah,
All right.
grapes really aren't one that I'm super big on.
All right. What do you got for me?
I'm going to go with kiwi. I'm putting kiwi on the A line. And this is 100% a flavor thing because kiwis fucking suck to eat. Like how do you eat a fucking kiwi? Like no matter what you do, it's a fucking mess. But it's so goddamn good. So they get an A 100% purely because of the taste, not because they're a pain in the ass to eat. Because they'd be an S for me. Like flavor wise, I love kiwi. But dude, they suck to eat. And they're like this fucking big. So you need to eat like 10 of them.
Nice.
So I'm going A. What do you think, B?
I don't really have kiwis are not something that I really eat, so I don't have a preference. I'll let you keep your A.
All right, we need to get you some kiwi, B. What the hell?
All right. So
Oh, they're my favorite, but I'm allergic. Ouch, that sucks. I need to play the sound here. That sucks.
All right. So, speaking of nominating things for the A line, I am going to come in with pineapple.
I was looking at that and I knew you were going to do that. Why pineapple?
Pineapple, again, it's one of those things where, as you can probably tell, I like melons and other, fruits that are a little bit more juicy. They've got some different flavor to them. It's a little bit sweet. You can cut them in chunks and just kind of pop the chunks. But I really just like how oftentimes pineapple has a little bit of that sweet, but there's also a little bit of tart, so it kind of cuts through.
Mhm.
That one is a little bit more of a gritty texture. I don't know that I like or dislike that, but for some people, that texture could obviously be off-putting, which is why I've put it on the A line versus on the S line.
I actually love the texture of pineapple. I just love the texture of it, and it's delicious. But pineapple's another one, and really it's any fruit, right? But pineapple's another one where you can very easily get a bad pineapple. And it's a pain in the ass to eat too, right? Because you gotta do the chopping thing. Maybe you use one of those special tools that does the thing. It does eat your tongue too. That's true. So I normally just, I'm an idiot, and so I just buy the already chopped up stuff from the store. But yeah, pineapple is legit. I have no argument with that being an A. None at all.
Nice.
I am now going to put up on the line for... where does it go? Where does it go, chat? I think I'm gonna put the pear up on the... Ooh, where does the pear go? I'm putting it on the S line. Tell me why the pear should not be on the S line, B. Because pear is that's my go-to. People, when you go to a normal person's house, they always have fucking apples. Hey, do you want an apple? Or an orange, right? They always have an apple or an orange. Me, it's always pears. Pears are my jam.
I would put pears on, I probably would put the pear on the B line.
What?
So I could probably be okay with putting the pear on the A line. It's just for me, again, I think this is just more of a personal preference thing. It seems like you go more for the it's just a different flavor context. Like a pear, obviously, they can be juicy, they can be sweet, they can be a little bit more like bland. The skin can be a little bit strange for some people. So some people like to cut the skin off and just eat the pear parts. So I don't know that for me it's that S. I could see putting it at the A or the B line, but I'm also not going to overrule you in the sense that you have been nice to me for water.
All right, well, I'll take this as my payback for watermelon then, because pears for me, that's probably, I can't say it's my number one. It's probably my 1A with raspberries, to be honest.
All right, now we're probably gonna argue about this one.
All right, let's do it. Like we haven't argued enough already tonight.
I know. We are going to put the avocado on the A line.
Why the fuck are you putting avocado on the A line?
Avocado goes on the A line because you wouldn't necessarily eat it on its own, but it is a complement to so many other things that you could eat. As to where a lot of these other fruits, you wouldn't necessarily put fruit with a lot of these other things. Like you wouldn't put watermelon on a taco. You wouldn't put watermelon on a burger. But you would sure put avocado on a burger. You would sure put avocado on a taco. You could sure put avocado on a casserole. It's a Swiss Army knife fruit that can complement almost any meal.
I'm not arguing, B. Have you ever had avocado toast? That shit is next fucking level, bruh. Like, yeah, no, avocado belongs on the A 100%. So, I don't want to keep throwing shit on the S line, but I almost feel like this belongs on the S line. So I'm going to put it up there.
Coconut on the S line?
Banana.
Banana?
But here's the thing about bananas, right? First of all, they're delicious. But this is the best part. How many times have I bitched about how messy and horrible a lot of this shit is to eat? Banana comes with its own, like, fucking serving tray thing. Like, you just unpeel it and eat the fucking thing and you throw the thing away. Like, that is amazing. It's like, you know, Jesus, who built my house that I'm moving into, said, hey, we need to create the perfect fruit. And he made bananas.
That's funny.
What do you think? Are you going to argue with me?
Nah. Well, again, like as I'm looking at this list, right? So everything on the A line, other than a pear, like if you offered me any of those, I'd be like, yes.
You mean
if you offer
line,
me
yeah.
if you offer me a pear, I might be like, meh. But like everything on the B line, I'd be like, yeah, I would eat that. So
I'm super allergic to bananas. Oh, that sucks.
Wow. Allergies in the chat here.
Yeah, right? All right, B, what's next?
All right, so I am going to put our first thing on the B line.
Okay.
And it's blueberries.
Okay. Why is it a B?
So think about blueberries. Now, blueberries are typically similar to raspberries or some of its other berry friends, but blueberries are a little bit more temperamental. They can be a little like squishy and weird. Sometimes they don't always have a lot of good flavor for you. You really are hit and miss with blueberries in a way that you're not often hit or miss with some of these other fruits, right? So that's why I kind of put it on the B line because it's a little bit more temperamental than some of these other fruits.
Okay. That's our first massive disagreement in the chat. We got in all caps, blueberries are an A. I'm not gonna disagree with you. So like growing up, I hated blueberries. Could not eat them. Red Ruby says A tier right now. I could not eat blueberries. When my mom would make blueberry muffins, they smelled so good that I would eat one every single time, and I would spit it out because it tasted so bad because I hated blueberries so much. But every single time I'd still try it because it smelled so good. But I actually grew into blueberries. I actually do like blueberries. It's not something.
Do we want to put them on the A tier? Do we want to bump them?
I'm okay with them being on the B personally.
Okay.
Because they're not a fruit that I'm gonna say, hey, I want to buy this. Like there's still another 4 or 5 fruits down at the bottom that I regularly buy. Blueberries just aren't one that I normally would buy. So I think B works for me. Even though Red Ruby and Cosmic Gooch hate us for it.
I mean, I think you could make the same argument with blueberries as you could avocado in the sense that you could do blueberry in baking, you could do blueberry with
that's true.
yogurt. Like that's why I was like, well, like I could see it on the A level, but you know.
All right, so I got to put this one on here. This is like a new favorite of mine. He chose poorly. Very well played. I'm going to choose this one. It's a new favorite of mine, and this is like this is one of the first ones that I buy now. But I'm going to put it on the A line instead of the S line, and that's the blackberry. And the reason it goes on the A line is because it has even more of those little pit things that get in your mouth that drive me fucking crazy. But the flavor of blackberries, dude, like I never had blackberries up until like a year or two ago, and my God, they're so good. What do you think?
Nice.
You on the blackberry train?
No, we're not really a big blackberry household. We're more like blueberries, raspberries, watermelon, grapes.
We have such different fruit flavors. You know, what's going on, man? All right,
I don't know.
we're at an hour 5, so let's do, I'd say 2 more each.
All right. Do I want to make you argue with me right now is the real question.
Do it.
I feel like, all right, I can't remember which, there's one of these that you hate, but I can't remember which one it is.
Well, you got 2 choices.
All right, so I am going to take our friend Cantaloupe and put it on the B line with the blueberry.
Okay, why cantaloupe?
So cantaloupe, while similar to the watermelon, is a little bit different. Like it has a little bit more of a like muskier flavor. Obviously, it is a little bit more of a pain to cut up than the watermelon because you got to deal with all the seeds and you got to scoop the seeds out and then you got to make sure you don't have little seeds in your, in your bite pieces. But I really enjoy mixing watermelon and cantaloupe. I've done that before. I have not actually had cantaloupe this year. That's a good reminder for me that I should buy some cantaloupe. But
There you go.
it's one of those that it's good, but I wouldn't rank it as elite.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I agree. I think watermelon and cantaloupe are very, very similar, except watermelon doesn't taste like ass. That's the big difference between the two. No, I don't hate cantaloupe. So this is another one that's weirdly enough, like, my taste changed. As a child, I hated cantaloupe. Like mom would buy this all the time. And I would avoid it like the plague. I hated it. But I had some a few years back. I think I was at work and we walked over to the Mariano's. If you're in Illinois, you probably know what Mariano's is. And we walked over there a lot from the office to get lunch. And I picked up a thing of mixed fruit. And it had watermelon and probably blueberries and strawberries, but it also had cantaloupe in there. And I figured, well, it's there. I might as well try it. And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of good. I don't love it. Like for me personally, it would probably be on the C line, but I'm not going to argue the B. I think that's fine.
Okay, cool.
All right, so we said 2 more. Was blackberry one of my last 2?
It was blackberry. You put that on the.
I didn't know if that was one of the last 2 or not.
No, you can do 2 more.
I got
That's
2 more.
fine.
Okay. I'm going to put strawberry.
Oh, you better put. I know where you better put this.
I'm going to put it on the A line. Where do you think it goes?
That's the elite tier.
Okay, I'm not going to argue that. So here's my thing with strawberries. This is why I went A, is because, like, how often I like y'all's seriousness about fruit. We don't play up in this place, Cooch. So like, I'm not going to cut up strawberries and just eat them like I would with a pear, with raspberries or banana, right? Or watermelon, right? I'm not just going to eat it. Sometimes I will, but for the most part not, because it's kind of tart. It's not like the same as a raspberry to me. But what does make this elite tier for me is my favorite fucking dessert of all time, strawberry shortcake. That shit's next fucking level. So as far as I'm concerned, we could create like an X tier above the S, and I would not argue if the strawberry was on there just because of strawberry shortcake.
Nice. Well, you took my last one because I was gonna just go put strawberries on the S tier.
Oh,
so
nice.
Now I don't have to do that. So now I need to look through these and decide if I want to slander something or if we want to have a more thoughtful conversation.
I know, I kind of want to pick one that'll be like on the C or the D line, but I don't know, because otherwise we got all S, A, and B.
All right, hold on. I will pick one.
I know what I'm ending with. I'm gonna put one that's gonna cause some controversy, maybe.
All right, I'll pick one. I'm gonna be a jerk, but I'm
Right.
gonna do it. We're gonna put grapefruit, and we're gonna put it on the D line. And the only reason it's on the D line is because grapefruit beer is delicious. Other than grapefruit beer, fire the grapefruit into the sun.
Well, let's be honest. The only reason grapefruit is on the D list is because there's not a fucking E list. Okay. Like, who eats grapefruit? Fuck out of here with that shit. I was gonna pick the same one because I was like, this is guaranteed to be low tier. Yeah, no. Like, I did the thing with the grapefruit and the sugar for breakfast like a couple times as a kid because I was trying to be healthy and fancy or something. And I'm just like, the fuck is wrong with me? Why am I eating this shit? Like, can make some oatmeal or some Captain Crunch or some shit. I don't know.
Right.
All right. Well, I feel like it's strange to me that we have not had apples or oranges, which I think in my mind have always been like the two quintessential fruits. So I'm not crazy about apples, so I'm going to go with orange. And ooh, orange. I'm debating S and A.
I would put it in B.
Okay, well then we'll go A.
All right.
Split the difference.
Yep.
Orange is another one that aren't easy to eat, right? So that's kind of a pain in the dick, which I'm not a big fan of. But they're so good. Like, oranges are just so good. And you get the benefit of orange juice, which is amazing. Especially if you ever had fresh squeezed orange juice, which local fucking Mariano's would do that. Fresh squeezed orange juice. It is next freaking level. Like, it is so goddamn good. So I think orange juice itself puts the orange towards the top. But yeah, oranges are pretty legit.
Yeah, I would not disagree. See, as I look at this list, like I feel like we've done a good job of delineating some of these things. Like I feel the hard part about apples is there's so many varieties of apples,
Yeah.
right? Like they say red apple. Well, if you're just giving me like a red delicious apple, that's just like a big old meh. That's like a C tier. If
I
you're giving me a
don't even know one from the other. I have
like
no idea.
like if you're giving me a honey crisp, like that's going on the that's going in the S tier, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's
So,
weird because nectarines and peaches, those are two that I buy all the time. Cherries, I buy all the time. Apricots, I buy fairly regularly. So there's like some really big ones that I buy pretty consistently that we didn't even get to. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good list.
I do.
I think it's great that grapefruit ended up on its own at the bottom. That is great.
I mean, I like my grapefruit sculpin, but I would prefer not to have a generic grapefruit.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so chat, thank you so much for your interactions. Poor grapefruit. Yeah, I don't have a sad. Oh, I got the sad trombone. So what we'll do is
for the grapefruit.
I am going to go ahead and I will post this on our what is it called? Our Twitter and our Facebook page. So if you don't follow, make sure you get out there and follow. And you can comment on there and tell us how wonderfully smart or stupid we really are. Because that's always a lot of fun. We got a little bit of movement on the last one. What did we do last time that people were so mad about? Do you remember what the last one was?
The last tier, we did the fast food one, and people were like, "Where's Culver's?"
Yeah,
and
they were pissed that we didn't have Culver's, which is fair. I mean, we're random, right? We should have Culver's on there.
I mean, Raising Cane's chicken fingers wasn't on there either, and I had some of that, and I showed you the results of that. So
it's good, but it's not so good.
Step 1, step 2,
exactly.
Number 2.
All right, let's go ahead. We will get this posted out there on Twitter and Facebook. We're going to tell you where to find that at the end of the show here. But first, we're going to have Brian do his extra point. B, what do you got for us?
So, it's been a few weeks. You know, as Skanzi said, I have been off gallivanting and enjoying a pandemic-free summer, right? We know that the pandemic's not over, but obviously some of the restrictions are lifting and people are having graduations and vacations and things like that. So, one of the things that I can tell you is that for me, it has been a very interesting ride. Like, I really had to do some work to make myself feel comfortable acclimating out into society again. But what I can tell you is that it feels good. It feels good to be out and interacting with people. It feels good to be kind of reclaiming some of the things that I used to do and mixing those with things that I've found to enjoy during pandemic life. And I think this goes back to what we always talk about, which is thinking about your own mental health and evaluating yourself and just being kind to yourself and taking things day by day and making sure that you do everything that you need to do. So, for example, this week, my goal and hope is to go into my office that has been sitting vacant for 15 months and take an assessment of the situation because I'll be back there this fall, doing work. So now I got to get it to be what I want it to be, for the new Brian, because pre-pandemic Brian was like decorations everywhere, and post-pandemic Brian is like, I might have to tone that down a little bit. But the biggest thing that I want to leave you with today is do what you can to make yourself feel good. Obviously, we're all under a lot of stress. We're all under a lot of change. We're all dealing with things that are going on in our internal world. We're dealing with things that are going on in the outside world. And all we can do is take it day by day and do the best that we can to make a change.
Awesome. Thanks for that, B. So you got to go back to the office here soon?
I will be back in the office starting August 2nd.
Dang. Sorry, man. I guess that's the world we live in now. So for my extra point, I actually want to talk about a story that we did not get to, and we may talk about this on the extra point, which for the record, if you are not aware, we do an extra podcast every week, generally every week, for our patrons. So if you haven't gone to Patreon and saw that, you can do that. If you want to support the stream monetarily, that's where you can do that. But we may talk about this some more when we do extra time this week. But this is about an NFL player named Carl Nassib. Brian, had you ever heard of this guy before today?
I had heard of him. I thought that he was on one of my fantasy teams at some point. And I have a very interesting perspective on this story that I don't know that I want to spoil. So I will let you continue.
Yeah, you can save it for extra time. So Carl Nassib is, as I understand it, a defensive lineman, right, for the, I almost said Los Angeles Raiders. The Oakland, no, not the Oakland either. The Las Vegas Raiders, that's who they are now. You would think that at some point I would remember that. And he's an active player, and he came out as gay yesterday. And he's the first active NFL player to come out as gay. There was a player a few years back who came out before the NFL draft. He got drafted, but he didn't actually make the team. So this is a little bit of a bigger deal. But yeah, like this is huge news, right? The NFL is a big macho man sport. So for someone to come out is a huge deal. And the support that he's got has been freaking amazing. I was just looking up an article where got messages from a lot of different current and past players. I saw Bo Jackson commented, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta check and see if Bo Jackson's an asshole, because he was my hero growing up. And no, great message. Hey, we support you. You're doing great. So the support has been amazing. But I'm more interested in some of the other things that he did outside of that. So first thing is he's donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project, which provides suicide prevention services for the LGBTQ community. And he also mentioned that there's a study where LGBTQ kids are 5 times more likely to consider suicide than their straight friends. And the quote here is that studies have shown that all it takes is one accepting adult to decrease the risk of an LGBTQ kid attempting suicide by 40%. Whether you're a friend, a parent, a coach, or a teammate, you can be that person. I mean, that's huge, right? We talk a lot about representation on this podcast, and this is one of the first professional sports people ever. There's been a couple others here, but he's one of a very, very, very small group of active professional athletes, at least in the big, sports in North America here. And not only is he coming out as gay, but he's also standing up, trying to support anybody that he can. He's monetarily supporting charities, and he's trying to help normalize this as much as we can to help attack what is absolutely a tragic epidemic in this country, which is young LGBTQ people committing suicide. So this is just, I don't care if we talk about this every week for the next 20 weeks, we still won't do it the justice that it deserves. Like, this is an amazing thing, and somebody who is putting his career literally on the line to try to help other people. And I think that is about as noble as it can get. So I wanted to make sure we did not end this podcast without me mentioning that. And that's what I've got, B.
I mean, and that makes sense. And what I was going to say, and I'll say it here, is he's giving up his privilege because he, as a white man, people looked at this man and had no misconceptions. They treated him with the same white male privilege that any other white male is treated with. Now, he has traded in that privilege and he said, you know what, I'm going to be the person that I know that I am. So now he will truly experience what it is like to be a LGBT person, and he's experienced it internally, right? But now he gets to experience it internally and externally. But that's such a powerful thing that he feels like he needs to do this. So I think that that's a great thing, and hopefully more people can take those steps to break away and to kind of, we talked about it earlier, where it's like people don't want to take that risk because they don't want to lose what they have. He is risking it all to help other people, and that's great.
Yep. Cool. You want to wrap us up, B?
I will wrap us up now that you have heard us talk about all the things that we talked about on this podcast. You can let us know what you think. You can find us on Twitter. We are at AQ_PROD. You can find Sconzi on Amazon Sidewalk and at Sconzi on Twitter. You can find me at LandmarkMKE. You can find us on Facebook, Almost Qualified Productions. You can find Sconzi on YouTube. Look for the guy with the cigar in his mouth. Don't look for the other Sconzi guy because we don't know what that guy's
Fuck
posting.
that
He
guy.
might, but you can find us. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you have topics, ideas for the show, complaints, grievances, or if you want to say that we've traumatized your children by making them learn about racism in the LGBTQ community. You probably shouldn't listen to this podcast anymore. But other than that, I'm Landmark. That's Sconzi. We wish you the best. Any other words of wisdom for our people tonight, Christopher?
No.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Knock the phone off the desk.